Deputy Devlin.
Minister, my question relates to the much-needed extension to the LUAS Green Line from Bride's Glen in Cherrywood. I note that the extension of the LUAS line to Bray, Lucan, Poolbeg, Finglas were included in the NTA's 2016 transport strategy for Dublin. News that the Finglas line is proceeding is welcome. However, residents in the other areas are also wondering where they stand. In particular, will the Minister provide an update on the status of the extension to the LUAS line from Bray, please?
I should like the Deputy for raising the issue of public transport in the Bray area, including the issue of light rail. I would note, of course, that Bray is set to benefit from investments in Bus Connects and Dart Plus, both of which will boost public transport capacity in the area. And I'm delighted that the final Bus Connects network will be published today and the National Transport Authority can move forward with the delivery of much improved network of bus services. The transport strategy for the Greater Dublin area is the strategic framework within which transport infrastructure in the region is considered and developed. It has a statutory basis and, importantly, is integrated within land use plans across the region, thus laying the foundation for a much more sustainable approach towards development generally. The strategy is a 20-year framework, and within it makes a number of proposals in relation to light rail infrastructure over the period. These proposals included the LUAS Green Cross City, which is since completed, LUAS Green Line capacity enhancement, which is well underway, and the proposed extensions to Bray, Finglas, Lucan and Poolbeg. Building on the strategy's recommendations, the current National Development Plan provided indicative funding towards planning and design of those LUAS extensions to Bray, Finglas, Lucan and Poolbeg in the Greater Dublin area. And indeed, a number of weeks ago, I was pleased to launch a public consultation on the emerging preferred route option in relation to the proposed LUAS Finglas project. The transport strategy proposal in relation to extending LUAS services to Bray was predicated on an upgrade of the existing LUAS Green Line to Metro standard. This was considered a prerequisite in order to ensure sufficient capacity on the line to cope with additional demand generated by the extension. More recently, the Bray transport study was published in 2019 and sets out a number of sustainable mobility interventions designed to facilitate continued population growth in the area. It recommends the introduction of a new bus service from Sandyford to Bray via Old Connaught until such time as the LUAS extension might be delivered, as well as other measures for the area.
For the response on that. Residents across Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown, not just in the Bray area, want to see delivery on public transport improvements. Now, I know what you've said about Bus Connects and Dart Plus, and they're all very, very welcome. However, there is currently in development or being development is taking place in areas such as Cabinteely, Carrickmines, Cherrywood and Old Connaught, to name but a few. And I estimate about 50,000 people will be living and working in that area over the next few years. Now, development plans themselves were agreed on the basis that public transport would be upgraded and indeed the extension to the Green Line. Now, there was 3 preferred routes back in 2006 and any delays to projects such as the LUAS link to Bray or indeed the construction of the new Woodbrook Dart station, which I have another question on today, will put serious pressure on the road network. So something needs to happen, Minister.
Sure. Conditioned on real certainty as to where the public transport projects stations are going to go in. We should not be developing any area or putting it into any development plan if we do not have absolute concrete certainty around the development of public transport nodes in those areas. Otherwise, we are confining people to a future of car-based dependency, which will not work, which will not serve the community, not serve the country. The issue about the extension of the LUAS line beyond Cherrywood will be critically dependent, as I said, on what happens to the Metro. Because, and as we say, that's not even in itself yet in the planning system. Even when it is, it will be, Metrolink will be a project which runs and stops just south of Ranelagh. There will be and has to be a further study looking at what are the alternatives after that, because if it runs to the southwest, say for example, if it was to extend in that direction, that would not resolve the problem then of capacity on the existing Green Line. The other options would be to upgrade the Green Line or to run a spur via UCD and Sandyford and Stillorgan to Sandyford, which would address the capacity issue on that Green Line. But that is a significant, that issue, our capacity issue, is not a short-term issue, and I think we should be very careful not to say to Wicklow County Council and others that they should not be developing sites or projects, housing in areas on a speculative basis that we think there might be particular projects down the line. We should focus on those areas where we do know there's expansion with Bus Connects, with the DART Plus programme, and where we do know where LUAS extensions, the likes of the fingerless one I mentioned, are going to come. That's where we have to start integration planning and development. Yes, I would support more than anyone else public transport extensions, but we cannot have housing where we do not have certainty that the public transport is going to be.
Well, thank you, Minister, for that. And while I agree with your view about future development, obviously the development plans are underway, and I would hope that your good offices would contact the relevant local authorities because, as I mentioned, Cabinteely, Carrickmines, Cherrywood, Shankill, Northern Bray area has enormous development already planned, and on the back of that they are anticipating that there's going to be public transport delivered. And many of the projects that have, or developments that have happened, are on the back of the idea that public transport will be delivered in those areas. And one of those is the LUAS Green Line, the B2 line, which, as I said, had 3 options. And there's, people want high frequency, high capacity link from Bridesglen to Bray. And as you mentioned as well, there's key employment areas, Sandyford, Dundrum and Cherrywood. And it's critical that we have an alternative to the car and that it's a reliable service and a capacity is there as well to accommodate all those people living and working in those areas. So finally, I just ask you to commit that in the National Development Plan that we fast track and reconsider that extension to the LUAS line. Cormac Devlin.